that's right. It says Josh Stark on the ball. Yeah, 'cause I wrote it in Sharpie. I'm like, we can never lose this.
Yeah. Sketch in a team's logo really quick on there. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. Can you guys hear me okay? This is episode 52, Unified Communications and Skype for Business. We're here live at Ignite, and I'm joined by two great guests that I'll introduce in a minute. But if you are just joining us and you're a regular guest, you'll notice that we've had a lot of changes.
Woo!
Yeah. So originally our show was called Skype for Business Broadcast. We're officially changing the show to Teams on Air for obvious reasons, right? So you're going to see a new look and feel. You're going to see a new energy brought to you thanks to Teams now being the new vision of intelligent communications. And that's why I brought these two gentlemen here today to kind of talk about, to recap what we heard today. We released a blog on Monday that's kind of unveiled our vision for intelligent communications, and we made some big announcements. So I want to make sure that these gentlemen can share that with you. So today with me, I'm Delonda Coleman. I'm on the market.
Hey, who are you? Yeah, all right.
There's just so much.
There's just so much
There's
to
just so
cover.
much floating through our heads now.
For those of you who are watching us live on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We also have, for the first time, a live studio audience. This is unbelievable.
Thank you, live
Yes,
studio
thank you,
audience. Woo! It's shocking how many of you are here. I'll just be perfectly frank about that.
It
We
is
were
a
just
little
talking
overwhelming.
about
Yeah.
when we were here last year, our team pretty much sat in the front, but now it's such amazing to see the power. So my day job at Microsoft is I do product marketing for Skype for Business and Teams, and I focus on the meetings workload, specifically Skype meeting broadcasts. And so we actually do this show every 2 weeks using Skype meeting broadcast. So we encourage you, if you're super interested, to tune in every 2 weeks, Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. To my left is Jamie Stark. He actually started the broadcast 51 episodes ago.
That's shocking.
I know.
Yeah. When we started the broadcast, we had the laptop, we had the internet connection, we had a camera, and that was it. So now we have clearly upgraded. This is fantastic. Thank you for having me on. I have the pleasure of looking after some of the capabilities in manageability in Office 365 with respect to Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams. And that's what we're here talking about for my part of the world at Ignite. And of course, there's lots of other stuff happening as well that we'll get to.
Yes. And to my right, we have Josh Balak.
Yep.
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 He is a consultant.
Yep. I'm a
And-
senior consultant at Integration Partners. So, but yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
We consider Josh sort of the cowboy of Skype for Business.
I wonder why.
I
What is it?
I don't know. I've joked often I should just put a beacon on top of my head that like spins around and blinks because it's yeah. It is. But anyway, I've actually had people this week bring Twitter handle suggestions to me involving cowboy and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah.
So Josh actually has his own blog. He actually does a Skype for Business recap. He's one of our MVPs, our most valued professionals for
Yay,
Skype.
MVPs! Thank you for your help. Oh.
And so, Josh, hopefully you can bring the perspective of his organization is actually using Teams and
Right.
Skype for Business. So bringing that perspective of having both of them together and just kind of give us from a consultant's perspective
Absolutely.
best practices.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I have a lot of good thoughts along those lines, and it's been fun using Teams as it's come to the limelight, and so looking forward to digging into today's announcements and the announcements from earlier this week. So.
Cool.
I love too that last year at Ignite we got to you kind of cornered me and we got to have a chat for your podcast, and now you're a guest.
Yeah.
On
It's
the
a-
other side
fun
of the
flip,
That's
yes.
right.
I like it.
That's perfect.
Yes. And you want to talk about amateur quality at that point? I had a laptop sitting in front of me in the middle of the expo hall, and
Yeah.
that was So
No, that was awesome. That was good times.
All
yeah.
right. So, in case you missed it, I want to recap what we talked about this week. I mean, there were two big announcements that we announced. The first is that Skype for Business has a new back-end infrastructure and equality. And the second is that we're bringing that experience into Microsoft Teams and bringing the unified communications experience into Teams so that meeting and calling and collaboration is all in one place. How do you guys feel about that? You like
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's been pretty amazing, the response that we've heard so far, to one that we've confirmed that it's actually happening. It's happening, so confirmation. But it's going to be a journey, and so we're going to take customers down this journey, and whatever path that they deem appropriate for their organization is up to them.
So does that mean that Skype for Business is going away, Delonda?
No, Skype for Business is not going away. We'll continue to maintain the Skype for Business client for some time, but in terms of where we are going to innovate and where we're going to bring this new paradigm, this new modern workforce, is going to be in Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. So Teams today, fantastic client, fantastic set of capabilities in the back end for doing chat and for doing persistent messaging. I personally love the async nature of Teams. Like it's really weird. Like it's a whole different mindset for me when I'm working with someone on Teams, that if I get a message there, I know that message isn't ephemeral. Like it's gonna be there. I don't have to reply to it, instantly. That if I'm busy, I can step away and I can come back and I can have that reply. That could be on mobile, that could be on the web, or that could be on my desktop. And that whole async nature of the communications, both one-to-one and within groups and the team structure and channels, is a really different thing. Now I'm old, right? So like I didn't grow up with with a lot of this stuff like a lot of millennials have, but it's really been it's a whole different mindset of communication for me that I've found.
It is. It's a very different dynamic with with persistent chat and Skype for Business being a different sense of persistence. Here within Teams, you have persistence all over the application.
Yeah, right.
Everything. And so that's it's a new dynamic for a lot of organizations to navigate, and it's going to be actually, I think, a little bit of culture change as well within orgs, because whereas it's cool and handy in some ways, I think people are also going to have to watch some of the things they say in meetings as well sometimes, right? Because, but everything is, you can go back and discover and follow back up later to see what was said earlier, or you can flag a conversation to come back and revisit.
It's a total interesting flip too of the concept of retention policy, right?
Yes.
Like in Skype for Business, where we had this concept of, oh, I want to make sure that I can retain this information for a certain amount of time. Teams retain stuff forever, right? Like it'll just be there for as long as you want. And so then now the mindset is to flip. It's like, well, how long do I want to have that stuff retained? And what's the right way to configure that for my policy and for my company and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just that different mindset, right?
Yeah.
It is.
For me, I love that it minimizes my context switching. So I don't have to do the swivel chair from this application to this application.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just more focused. Last week I took a much needed vacation, probably bad timing, but I took it anyway. and I came back a couple days. I came back, 3 days before Ignite, and I was able to jump right in because I didn't have to search Outlook for, okay, who's on this team and on this project and sort through this conversation. I actually just jumped right into the channel. I saw the decisions that were made, and I could re-engage really quickly right back into the conversation.
The organizing factor of channels, of having the OneNote, of having the SharePoint site, of having the group to manage permissions, all of those pieces, from an end user perspective, to me it really is this amazing front end to all these these great Office 365 services that kind of bundles it all together and makes it appropriate for particular projects or groups and so it's super easy to find stuff instead of having to what SharePoint site was that in?
Right.
Oh, can I go and dig that up? Like if somebody needs you to see something in Teams, they mention you and it's right there in your notifications and you can just go right to it. I can see all the files, I can see the meetings, I can see the notes, and I really love how Teams is almost a celebration of all the great things of Office 365
That's a great
brought
way to
into
put it.
brought into one client, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just it's so cool.
It's so smart. So OneNote, SharePoint,
Right,
Skype
right.
for Business, everything. Now we're drinking the Kool-Aid.
No, really.
We're obviously in love with Teams, but I still have a passion for Skype for Business. And we've actually, Jamie and I both have been on Skype for Business since it was called Office Communication Server. We saw Link, we saw Skype for Business, and now we're seeing Teams. And so one of the questions that always comes up is like, is Skype for Business going away? From an online perspective, eventually the client in online will go away. The infrastructure is clearly going to be in the cloud. But I really want to emphasize the last and final point that we left Ignite with is that we are making a commitment to Skype for Business server and the VNext server, and that is not going away. And we plan to ship a next version of the server because not everyone is ready or has reasons to move to the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. There's tons of customers that are out there that have Skype for Business server today or have Link server of the previous version. I've met a lot of customers that are really taking their server deployment now, and they're starting to really move that into scale, and they're starting to think not just about, hey, how do I do IM and presence and meetings, but I'm replacing all of my voice sockets now with Skype for Business server, and I'm starting to think not just about users, but how am I dealing with my contact centers? How am I doing with my analog? And how am I doing with, and all those pieces are going to be coming to Teams in the new architecture, but there's no impending event for a customer to be like, oh, how do we move all this stuff immediately? Like, that's not the case at all. There's tremendous there's tremendous cases where customers are going to want to stay on the server, kind of have that operating, feel good about that trusted platform. And when they're ready to move to the cloud, when we've engineered the blockers that may be keeping them on premises, we engineer those out of the cloud, then they'll have the opportunity to move up into Office 365, right? But there's no there's no date there, and having the new server and announcing that, I think was awesome. That was the right thing. And there was a whole session on that too, right?
There was.
Yeah.
From the consulting side, not that there was any rumors. This was a very big surprise to everybody when it was announced about Teams and Skype for Business. But
Sarcasm.
the commitment that has been reiterated over and over again to the server, to the on-premises application, is a strong and needed message, and it's one that really helps when it comes to talking with your customers and your clients, putting these projects together. In cases there might be stuff that is kind of slowed down or just kind of waited to see what the news is going to be, and having this message over and over again, having an entire session that Daniel Strader did yesterday on VNext and what that looks like. Really good news. It's great to see the commitment there. Like you said, it's time to start getting used to Teams.
Yeah.
It's time to bake Teams into your not UC, IC strategy. But it's at the same time, you don't have to worry about any impending doom date. Server VNext is still about a year away in development, and so we're there. You don't have to worry about being forced out of your on-prem environment at all.
Yeah.
And for folks that are not here at Ignite, you may not be aware, but all of the content at Ignite gets posted up online publicly. And so you get the recordings, you get the presentation material that you can download. Generally, that's a 24, 48 hour time period after the session. So it wouldn't surprise me if Dan's session is available online today. For folks that are not here at Ignite that weren't able to
highly recommend that session.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, if you missed the session, we are live blogging each session. So within a few minutes after each session, we'll post a blog on the topic that was discussed. So if you go to the Microsoft communities and you click on the Skype for Business or Microsoft Teams community, you'll be able to read the blog on each of the sessions and get the highlights. So you can consume it in any way that you like it. If you want it in video, if you want it in audio, if you want it in written form, we're making sure that's available.
If you want it in mad tweeting form as well, that's
exactly.
all there. Yeah.
Once again, a mad shout out to our MVPs who are doing that heavy lifting, who are there in the sessions, taking notes, publishing that stuff in your real time.
Yeah.
It's absolutely phenomenal. All the work that they've done here, supporting us at Ignite. Like we couldn't do it without them. So again, to you and to the rest of the community, really appreciate that.
Yeah. I also want to talk about, so if you're in either camp, if you want to stay on-prem or if you want to move to the cloud and start evaluating Microsoft Teams, there's a couple of resources that we've made available to you. If you're thinking about moving to this new paradigm, there is a website called Success with Teams. And Success with Teams has a bunch of deployment guidance and information and tools and resources to really help you accelerate adoption. I think that's one of the key things that we've learned over the course of unified communications, when you're going through these cultures and paradigm shifts, the biggest change that you're going to have to overcome is getting your end users aware of this change, and then also smart and intelligent about how to leverage it to use these tools. I think Teams is pretty intuitive, and it's easy for folks to adopt, but definitely, checking out Success with Teams can help you accelerate that adoption. Also, the other tool that I want to talk about is Fast Track. So Fast Track is our onboarding service. If you're an Office 365 customer and you're thinking about going towards the cloud, the Fast Track services can help you accelerate that adoption. They're Microsoft engineers that no additional cost with you, that will sit with you on the phone and kind of walk you through all the things that are going to that you're going to need to get online. So think about network hygiene, thinking about which client to adopt and what path strategy you're going to use. If you're thinking about enterprise voice or a phone system formerly called Cloud PBX, those are some of the really cool applications that you can use. I just kind of dropped a little nugget in there, so maybe I should clear.
I'm still catching myself on the naming.
Yeah.
Our illustrious marketing organization
Yes.
has changed the names of some of the services.
Quite a few services, yeah.
that are in Office 365. So what I knew when I spent some time in the marketing organization is Cloud PBX is now called Phone System.
That's correct.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
What I knew as PSTN Calling, Public Switch Telephony Network Calling, is now
called calling plans.
Calling plans. Excellent.
Yeah, and we also made it.
Conferencing is audio conferencing now.
Yes,
right.
I dropped a blog today on audio conferencing. Audio conferencing is formerly called PSTN conferencing. It's now called audio conferencing, and then PSTN consumption billing. So that is the mechanism for you to do have overage charges or toll-free deducted from a pool, is now called communications credits. So those are four names.
That one I didn't know.
I did
about.
not hear that either. Okay.
Check
I
out
gotta
the
read
blog.
this blog. God.
So yeah, and I mean, we really made those changes just to make them simpler and easier to understand for both business and administrators. So, PBX is kind of the thing of the past.
Because we're moving into intelligent communications.
Right.
That was another
Yes.
kind of big statement that we made here at Ignite. Talking about how we've had this world of unified communications. Now with Teams and with the services that we have available and the capabilities that we can bring into Teams, we can really evolve this into almost a whole nother generation of technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
More
Exactly.
intelligent way of doing communication.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yes, it's-
No.
Yeah,
And
you
some
don't
of
want to
the-
have to look up, Google PSTN or PBX to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
for you millennials out there.
Bing. It's Bing.
Moving on. So, all right. So now I really want to talk about this integrated environment and how do we think about interoperability.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
if you're in both modes, right, you have some users in the cloud, some users on Skype for Business, some users for Teams. Is chat and meetings, how is all that going to work out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so there's definitely work that we've done to engineer that interoperability between the Skype for Business kind of signaling and media stack and the Teams signaling and media stack. They are different in a lot of ways, and so you'll find that with respect to Teams, like it will have a different look, it will have a different kind of network quality, and we think that's a pretty significant improvement. It actually is built off of what we call our next generation core, or NGC. And that next generation core is the same fundamental core that operates the Skype consumer platform as well. Fundamentally, we were at a time thinking, does it make sense to kind of engineer this into Skype for Business Online? And our strategy ended up being, no, we really want to, kind of bring all this capability into the Teams client, and really expose all the richness that we have in Skype for Business into that client. But there's always going to be cases where as customers migrate, or maybe for a longer period of time, where you're going to have some users on Skype and some users on Teams. So we've got signaling and media gateways established to be able to manage that connectivity, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm on Skype for Business and you're on Teams, and I can call you, and that call just works. Now, not all of the features of Skype for Business are available in Teams, and vice versa, right? So the calling and the media stuff works, and that's kind of that core set of capabilities, right?
I like the way. Go ahead.
I was going to say one of the areas that I heard a lot of questions on the sessions when it came to back and forth with Teams and Skype for Business was meetings, and joining meetings. And well, okay, I'm using a Teams client or a Skype for Business, Outlook, and I'm creating this meeting, and it's got the invite to Teams, but I'm in Skype for Business. How is that going to work? And it was highlighted that there is a wonderful web client out there available for Teams. And so if you're in Skype for Business and you're not touching Teams yet, that's fine. Click that link. Your browser will pop up.
That's right.
And you'll be joining.
And we've talked about web clients for a long time. Now
Yes.
we should kind of get into this a little bit, because it is significantly different in the experience in Teams. Like, there's not a plugin. It's all WebRTC based. You get full media. You don't have to have admin rights. Like it is literally just, I click into it and there I am in the meeting. Yeah,
it's
right.
that simple.
It's very slick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, the way that we engineer Teams allows us to have features and capabilities across desktop, across web, and across mobile. And so we can iterate across all of those platforms very, very fast.
Right.
Whereas in the past, there were literally completely separate teams, completely separate architectures, completely separate sets of work, which is why, there are always cases in Skype for Business of, well, yeah, that thing works in the phone, but it doesn't work in the rich client, and it kind of is different. And so we end up with these, three-dimensional cubes of feature guides, right? Of like what feature and what client and what server and online, and all that's going to go away with Teams,
that
right?
blew me out the day. It blew my mind on day one, out the door, when Teams went to GA, how there was a desktop client,
everywhere.
there was a web client, and there was a mobile client right out the gate. And I was like, wow, this is a very big departure from the normal way that we have seen clients roll out.
Exactly.
And it was huge.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
It's one of the things that, from an engineering perspective, has us really excited of being able to, kind of quickly pilot and deliver new capabilities across all those platforms, powered by this cloud, in an architecture that allows us to iterate really fast and bring stuff to market. So, even now, audio conferencing is in preview with Teams. Like, that came in really quickly.
Yes.
And you're going to see, we're not talking about dates and roadmaps and things here at Ignite, but you're going to see, all of the now phone system features and calling plan features and other, kind of things that you would expect in Skype for Business Online, Skype for Business Server. Those are going to be brought into Teams, and in many cases, we're just engineering those exact same services. Like, it's just a matter of plugging in those services at a back-end cloud layer to be able to have, auto attendant and call queues and all those kind of capabilities operating within Teams.
It's part of the reason why I have to go out every 2 weeks and talk on the show is because of this modern architecture. And you guys are so rapidly putting out stuff that, I just kind of have to keep going, doing the drum beat and talking
there's
about
so
it,
much here. Yeah.
There's just so much coming. And now that we're on this modern infrastructure, the features and the functionality drop literally every month. There's something new.
It's a needed pulse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that you can innovate and advance that, engineer that fast. But yeah, sometimes it can leave your head spinning when you're implementing the solution and you're like, I didn't even know that's been out for 2 weeks. Okay.
All right. As we were preparing for this, Jimmy made a really good point. Now, so if you're thinking about, he doesn't make them often, but sometimes when he does, I listen.
He said it. I didn't.
About I'm on Skype for Business meetings. When should I move? And you really made a really good point about doing the fundamentals first. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I think about the fundamentals of media between Skype for Business and Teams, like, yes, this is a new media stack. Yes, this is an optimization of our architecture, but those fundamentals really don't change with respect to how do I need to think about my core infrastructure, my connection out to Office 365 and connection out to the network. So, for every project, they need to start with a question of, what does my network look like? What is that egress out to the internet? What is my wireless? And what are the, the proxies that I've got in the way? And what are the application delivery controllers? And how's all that going to work? So, having that network assessment really is kind of a key part. And I know that's part and parcel of the methodology that you follow with respect to delivery.
Right. It definitely is a starting point. Before you go down a road, you need to evaluate the networking component. When we're talking about all that voice and video and all this rich media going over that data pipe, that's where you start. You need to make sure.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
ready.
Yeah, you don't want to move forward and kind of get down the road with Teams and then realize like, oh, our 10-year-old access points. Oh, we're gonna have to go and now budget for that.
Yeah.
Like that's a bad place to be, right? It's good to have all that knowledge up front, so that way and you can be planful about it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I think to build on that, in terms of kind of with the question you asked, where to start and when to start moving and all that, I think that's going to be very important with the ability to rapidly engineer and release new features, all that. And there's a lot that we've seen on the roadmap. There's a lot coming up, and it's exciting and cool. But without the discussion on exact dates and all that, it's going to be important to keep an eye on your show, this show, and keep an eye, get a good pulse for little bits of product roadmap things that appear out on social media and on Microsoft sites. Pay attention to what's landing in Teams when, and that will help guide that transition a little better as well.
I've had a few conversations with customers around this point where they're saying, look, here's where I am in my Skype deployment, kind of life cycle. We love Teams. We know we're going to get to Teams, and it's really a question of how Microsoft is going to be rolling out additional services into Teams. That's how we're going to gauge, where we start to plan that transition.
Right.
And that could be, in within a year, that could be in 2 years. And it's going to depend upon when Microsoft is bringing these capabilities into market. And so I think the most important thing that for everyone to know is that we're not going to keep that roadmap hidden. That roadmap is going to be out on the public Office 365 roadmap starting in October. We're going to start publishing that information about Teams. We want to have this show and this set of conversations focused around this news. If you think it's significant enough.
It is, indeed.
And then get everybody thinking about, okay, what do my plans look like and where am I at in my roadmap? So, everyone needs to hold us accountable. Like this is an important deliverable for marketing and for engineering that we're delivering on informing this roadmap so that way customers can make the right decisions.
A couple of things to think about, and when you're thinking about your network, that's sort of the baseline fundamental thing that you should be thinking about. But then as you're thinking about my end users and the capabilities that my end users need, I think that's a great pivot to think about. Are most of my end users in the office using conference rooms, using IP phones? Well, then maybe Skype for Business is the right place for you to continue to be until the roadmap is unveiled in terms of when those capabilities. If you have a globally distributed workforce or a workforce that mostly works remotely, they don't depend on physical hardware in the office or attached to their desk, then maybe Teams is a great resource for them to start on, because now they're completely in the cloud, it automatically works, and they don't have to really worry about the interoperability with the devices.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be either or, right? That you can start using Teams today, even if you have Skype for Business Server, even if you have Skype for Business Online, you can start using Teams today, start seeing value out of Teams, and then decide, like, if it's really confusing for folks, you can turn off some of that capability in Teams.
Right.
You can turn Teams into a kind of chat and persistent messaging client, or you can keep that capability on and folks can use both, right? So there's a lot of optionality there for customers. One of the things that my team is doing is putting out the kind of administrative controls and the ability to policy this across not just the entire tenant, but segments of your tenant. So that way you can control this experience a little bit more fine, with a fine tooth, or the fine control there. And there's a lot of optionality that customers have in thinking about the rollout here and thinking about the usage, because we've been doing Skype for Business and Teams now for over a year, right, at Microsoft. And using it for different projects and different capabilities, and Like I of course still have Skype for Business, and I use it a lot for the federated capabilities because Teams doesn't have that federated facility yet,
Not
right?
yet.
Options is key. It's been a key part of this whole discussion, from Monday on through. Having options, presenting customers with options, letting them know they're not being pushed in one direction or the other.
Yeah.
If you want to start using Teams for just managing projects in Planner, it'll start getting you familiar with the
Right.
interface and
Right.
with the tool, and you'll start to discover the other things that it can do. And before you know it, you're going to want to be doing more in it. But you're not options is a big theme here.
And on the one hand, I can imagine customers thinking, oh, this is great, I've got all this optionality. On the other hand, I'm imagining some customers thinking, oh, how am I going to parse my way through this? Is that something that you and your colleagues and other consultants out there could potentially assist with?
I believe that is something that we could give a hand to. Yes, it's our job to stay on top of these things as they roll out, to watch that roadmap, to keep a good pulse with you guys, and then to guide as the questions come in. Yes, this is the new technology, and yes, this is the different things it can do, and here are the various paths that you may take depending on your needs.
Yeah.
So. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think not all path is perfect, and we know we're acknowledging that. But I think as a whole, as a collective, Microsoft 365 really provides sort of that end-to-end solutions that you need across all our different, whether it be on-prem or through the crowd. I think you can come to Microsoft as a one-stop shop for your communications and collaborations needs.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed, that's what we're building. It's beautiful.
All right, well, this feels like a nice, good transition to start talking about management tools.
Really? That's a very natural transition to management tools.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it. So tell us about manageability.
Well, Jamie used to be on my team, but he left to go into sweeter pastures.
No, come on now.
Greener
Come on.
pastures. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and some of the capabilities that you unveiled here.
Yeah,
tonight.
so I mentioned it a little bit earlier. So one of the things I'm working on in the engineering organization is we are building out a new administrative portal in Office 365 for both Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business.
One portal.
One portal, I
That's
know.
right.
And so, yeah, no, it's fantastic.
I love
and so we had a whole session on this yesterday. You can find it online, of course. And one of the things that, obviously, we were thinking about this redesign, and then the work with Teams started up, and it was very natural for us to make the decision, hey, let's have, instead of having another adjunct thing, let's bring this all together, because a lot of the manageability concepts are very, very similar across Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams. So it makes sense to have that. And at the same time, we made the decision, let's also pull in the functionality of CQD, the call quality dashboard.
Yes.
Let's also bring in the functionality of the call analytics capability, which is in now a broad public preview.
Another great session, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, for my colleagues. Yeah, no, I'm so happy to hear it. Ours were scheduled at the exact same time.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go to it.
Yeah.
But so it's not just that it provides it all in a single place, but now we can be really thoughtful about scenarios that span across all these different products, right?
Yeah.
So instead of just looking at a user and seeing a user's configuration, I can look at a user and I can see that, plus I can see their last meetings, plus I can see their aggregate call quality. I can bring all of that data together, and then as an admin, I can use that as paths into all the different areas of the system.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just it's so exciting to be able to be a part of bringing this to life. And so it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of capability in the Link Legacy Link, now Skype for Business admin portal. So everything from we showed off some stuff around number porting. We showed off some stuff about acquiring new phone numbers, policy management. So there's a tremendous amount there. Dial plans as well. Dial plans. Yeah, we're gonna have a UI to do dial plans. It's very exciting. So we're bringing all of that existing capability plus all the new capability from Teams and all the other tools, and bringing it all together in one thing.
So
It's just amazing.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
it's super
gonna, huge dial plans, normalization rules, managing that in the GUI and not in PowerShell. I'm so excited for that. That's been painful on a couple times, but it's so that's really great to hear. In terms of bringing them both under one roof, I think one of the important messages with that is going back to kind of a fear of transition, or I don't understand the transition process, or do I have to change up my numbers, or the things I've already built out in this portal, am I losing that and having to start all over again? And the answer is no.
Yeah,
to that.
absolutely.
So,
No, because these fundamental backend services for dial-in conferencing, for the phone system services and so forth,
And the
those are
contract.
all the same.
They're all the same.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
all the same fundamental services. Those are already running in Azure. Those are already up and running. It's just a matter of wiring those up to the Microsoft Teams backend.
have the
And
same phone number from one client to the other.
Yep,
and, yeah,
absolutely.
it's great.
Yeah, no, I mean that is an exciting thing that we're being really thoughtful about that admin experience, and I'm particularly passionate about it. So no, it's been really fun. Yeah.
You mentioned the number porting, seeing a portal for that, a wizard for it. I was like, that is cool.
Number porting, yeah, as you're aware, it's an incredibly sophisticated set of interactions.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot of stuff to validate. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do. And so doing it in a wizard and having it set up the way it is yeah. No, we've been blessed to be able to work with some great designers and some great engineers on the dev side to be able to be really thoughtful about all of these areas. And so no, it's fun. It's fun to be able to participate and build some of this stuff out. Yeah.
Well, you can check out Jamie's sessions, which was yesterday. I think it'll be online within 24 to 48 hours to sometime.
Probably now.
Or you can go to our community site and read the blog and the recap by one of our MVPs. So, Josh, you have been using Teams in your organization. So I'd love to kind of talk about and share with the audience how you've been using Teams, not as a consultant, but just as a customer, as a consumer of the product.
Right. So a little bit of, to paint the picture of how we would use it, the company is a consulting firm, and so we actually have a lot of projects, coming in, and so the Microsoft operations team, which is where I'm at, is the team that is really naturally dived right straight into Teams, right? And so the areas that we're using it is, we will create a new team for each new customer we bring in, each new project, and then if we have multiple engagements or projects with that team, we're creating new channels underneath that team and to manage each one. And so we have really leveraged Planner as an added connector tab.
As a third-party tool.
Yes, into each team in order to capture our tasks as we're managing our projects. We are more and more using the files there for sharing files and trading files, and we love being able to mention each other for getting each other's attention and draw. That's one of the issues with it, right? There's some of us that we love it and we're diving straight into it, but it's a culture change. It's a new thing to get used to.
Yeah.
Totally.
And sometimes when you get really busy, as we are, you forget to change gears from Skype for Business and jump over into Teams and try to change the processes. But when you get that email notification or a little pop-up that says someone mentioned you, it draws you into the app and you remember to start. So we're using that quite a bit. One of the things that we're very excited to start utilizing with it is guest access. And with that having just been recently announced, we do a lot of inner working with these teams, but it would be so much more natural to just bring the client home, especially sharing documents, or things of that nature. So bringing them in as guests is going to be a big deal. Looking forward to the future with Federation eventually, will be a cool thing. But the other area where we're starting to change gears, and I've kind of tried to push this myself just because it's geeky and I like to do it, but I'm like,
because you're the cowboy.
Yeah. But having our actual team meetings, our internal team meetings, where prior to PSTN conferencing being in public preview, before we could dial in that way, we had internal team meetings, and it was all just Skype for Business, no PSTN connectivity. And I said, hey, for these at least, let's kind of try to change gears in our weekly meetings. Let's start having some of these meetings in Teams and try it out. And try to change some habits.
Yeah.
There's this tiny little feature in Teams that I absolutely love when it comes to meetings. And it's when a meeting starts up, you actually get a notification of that meeting starting, of the first person joining into the meeting.
Yeah.
So I joined a daily stand-up with an engineering team that's off-site. And so there are times that it's busy where they are,
right,
and they may not join into the team meeting until like 5 or 10 minutes after the hour, but I always get that notification when somebody has joined in, so I know, oh great, the stand-up is starting, because the stand-up doesn't always start at exactly 10 a.m.
No,
right? The stand-up may start at 10:04, it may start at 10:08, and so I get that notification, and it's just the smallest little thing, but it's so cool that we can do that it's being more thoughtful about the entire meeting life cycle, right? And which is something that we were talking about a little bit more in the keynote. And,
Right. One other feature that's been just a key, and it's really important to operations for us, memes. We use it as a but memes all over the place in our teams. So
We have a
Yeah.
new team member who is fantastic with GIFs, and I was literally like, okay, I am so incompetent in this. I have to go and learn. Like where are you finding these? How are you doing this?
Yeah.
Oh, they're amazing way of communicating
it's
without
just-
having to communicate.
Yeah,
I love it.
I mean, it just it's
It breaks up the monotony, honestly, of your day-to-day grind. You open the app up and you have a smile. It's something to laugh about.
this
there,
is
so.
it's very much kind of just part and parcel of the personality of the organization, the personality of
Yes.
the team. You can reflect that.
Bringing some humanity into it. I like it.
Or
Yeah.
as an admin, you can shut that stuff down.
I like that too.
We provide
to
that
your team,
capability
is
as
that-
well.
Yeah, is that your policies?
So one thing I'd love to talk about is your transitioning and thinking about, because you guys both use Skype for Business on-prem
Mhm.
and you're using Teams. What's going to be that tipping point to get you all the way over to Teams?
I would have to say we'll need to see a lot of the PSTN calling features really the fuller extent of the roadmaps, the stuff we've seen demoed, once that fully hits.
Yeah.
And probably realistically after it's had a few months to make sure all is well once it gets out there, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's probably when we would look to be making our transition, at least in some areas, with team members or pilot groups in terms of using calling. But calling is one of the big deals, and that's one of the things that keeps a lot of organizations on-prem is just either requirements along those lines or just being unsure about moving calling to the cloud.
Right.
And we've obviously already played with and toyed with Skype for Business Online phone system now, and had good experiences there. So we expect by the time it's as GA and mainstream with PSTN calling being in the Teams client, we'll be about ready.
I guarantee you that PSTN connectivity and capability will come to the Teams client a lot faster than it came to Skype for Business Online.
Okay.
From the release of Link Online and Skype for Business Online to the availability of PSTN, that time period is going to be a lot different when it comes to bringing that up with Teams, right? Because all that fundamental infrastructure is there.
Yeah.
Now we also, as far as the thing that's going to really be instrumental in bringing us there, is we do a lot of federated work with our clients.
Yeah.
And so guest access is great for different use cases, but that true federation is when we're really, we'll know, okay, we can do a lot of what we do now and the same way we do it with our clients.
Yeah.
And that will really draw us more into
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
The key thing that I want to call out with yours is the benefit is that we made a commitment. We're going to close the gaps between Skype for Business and Teams so that it's coming.
Yes.
And if you're not ready for Teams because of the gaps that we have,
Mm-hmm.
we've made a commitment to the server. The server exists. The existing Skype for Business Online client exists, and the service exists. So, continuing along as planned, and when you're ready is definitely going to be a key message for us.
And the next version of the server, per the sessions we've seen and everything, we're still pretty early from when that delivery date is coming, but it's going to be it's going to be a platform and a server application that is built towards the cloud, working towards Teams, working with Teams. And so these situations where you're starting to branch out into it a bit more and you're exercising some of those options that you're being given, that next version of server is going to be a friendly place for you to be.
We have lots of spindles that are up in Azure, that are up in Office 365 that we can leverage for lots of different things.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, we absolutely are looking forward to taking lots of good data from customers and putting it in a safe place, not having to worry about spinning those spindles on-prem.
Right. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we're out of time. I want to thank you, Jamie, for coming back to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, finally.
And thank you, Josh, for being our first time on the show. We really appreciate it.
Are you going to come back? Are you going to do this again?
If I get an invite, I'll be back.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. to talk really more specifically about Teams and going deeper and talking about the intelligent capabilities in Microsoft Teams.
Nice.
So if you want to join us, we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then if you
is that 11 a.m. Pacific?
11 a.m. Eastern time.
We
will be streaming live for those of you online. You can certainly turn back in at aka.ms/Teams on Air. And then finally, if you want to tune into the show, you can watch us bi-weekly, and our next live episode will be October 13th. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you coming out.
It's been fun. All right.